we see something unprecedented last month, because it's something happening not really often in Belarus. It is protests, and it's not just a single act of protest. It's a series of various kinds of meetings and demonstrations that take place all around the country, and not just in one city, which is normally a place where every people go out on streets. It's Minsk, which has quite established protest culture. This is a protest movement that spread around all Belarus just very quickly. For a few weeks they spread from big cities to smaller ones, and some cities having protests that they didn't see for last 20 or even 25 years. This is amazing, I think. The protest was sparked by the law that required every unemployed person, unregistered unemployed person, to pay a special tax, which was not quite high as to maybe European or international standards, but it's very high in terms of living standards of Belarus. And people started protesting against this tax when the deadline of its paying approached. And later on, the movement that was sparked by this issue won over the government, and government decided to postpone the tax for a year, but it didn't stop the protest itself. Protest continues, and now the main issue is general economy theme, the living standards, the salaries, decreasing salaries, economic crisis that seems didn't stop for several years, unemployment, quite high unemployment, not official one, but unofficial, and many other issues related to issues of money and economy. And finally people started talking about political issues, something was quite observed quite often. People started talking about the change of the government and ultimately the departure of President Lukashenko from his chair. The first response for several first weeks was quite peaceful. People didn't see any policemen on streets during their protests. They didn't see any reaction basically of the government. But something happened last week. Leaders of the protest, which ultimately did not have any leaders at all, apparently. The people who kind of started highlighting themselves as leaders of the protest, they started being arrested by the government. And it started happening recently, very recently. But what, interestingly, in my opinion, what government and maybe some established mainstream opposition figures do not understand is that this nature of this contemporary protest, which, as many people saying, and experts saying, journalists saying, and my own observation is saying, was largely sparked by the internet, and this process was largely sparked by social media. So it means that whoever you try to arrest as a government, you still can't arrest all the leaders, because everybody can become a leader immediately. Human rights defenders saying that more than 70 people been arrested just over last 10 days, which is quite unprecedented also, because we didn't have as many arrested people for political reasons in Belarus simultaneously for many years. They arrested more than 70 people. Many of them are journalists, some of them are politicians, quite high-ranking in a position, and some, probably the biggest part, we don't really know who they are. They are new people. They are people that became those leaders of this leaderless movement just recently. Bloggers or vloggers, like YouTube bloggers, they became prominent figures during this protest. Currently, one of these figures, the blogger from Homel, which is southern city in Belarus, he's hiding from the government, and just 15 minutes ago he'd been online streaming saying that I'm hiding from the police who wants to arrest me. And it was amazing, and people been communicating with him, exchanging comments, and he been saying that, like, what he's doing right now, and he tries to kind of escape from the government. Social movement theory suggests. It suggests that in any case, any social movement should first be united, and it should provide meaningful agenda, and they should build some claims. They should be providing some claims that should be sent to the government or whoever could or would like to talk with this movement, or at least this movement should show that it can provide and present with the society with meaningful claims. So they should be united, and they should have some claims, and also they should, of course, find people who would represent them. And in this case, they have a chance to succeed. We don't really know where it can lead, but ultimately it can lead to some changes. We hope. We always hope for it. Well, but the history of Belarus normally suggests that any series of this kind of protests very often were ended in repressions, and it's quite pessimistic scenario that nobody wants to see, but it can happen also.